Discover the amazing transformation of a hidden heartwarming princess after 10 years of rejection. In the quaint town of Maplewood, where apple cider wafted through the crisp autumn air, Emma stood behind her countertop, flour dusting her cheeks like a gentle reminder of her humble beginnings. At 28, she was known for her muffins that made hearts melt and cookies that tasted like childhood dreams. Yet, as the harvest festival approached, the shadow of past rejection loomed over her, making her feel more like a forgotten stepchild than the princess she had always imagined being. From the time Emma was a little girl, she crafted elaborate fantasies in her mind. One day she would wear a sparkling tiara and waltz into the festival, the envy of all. But the teasing from her wealthier peers had chipped away at her dreams, leaving jagged wounds where hope should have thrived. The moments when they pointed and laughed at her hand-me-down clothes cut deep, echoing in her thoughts like a relentless reminder of her place in the social pecking order. As she poured her heart into her baking, her grandmother's treasured recipes became more than just instructions. They transformed into her serenade of survival. With the festival on the horizon, excitement buzzed in the air like the lively chatter of children. Hope flickered inside Emma as she signed up for the legendary baking competition. This was her chance to prove herself, to rise from the ashes of doubt and defiance. Yet, when she bumped into Jessica, the girl who once held Emma's hand at recess but now flourished as the epitome of social success, the past clawed at her heart. Old feelings of inadequacy surged as memories of shared laughter turned into envy. As the competition tightened its grip, a miscommunication with Jessica spiraled into a volcanic confrontation, reigniting that old pain. But the fire of confrontation burned out, and Jessica surprised Emma with a startling confession. A family secret that twisted their lives together in ways neither had anticipated. Suddenly, Emma realized they weren't so different after all. Both had fought battles concealed from the world. The walls around Emma's heart began to crack as empathy blossomed. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the festival day arrived, Emma's hopes rose. Whispers of her newfound connection with Jessica coursed through Maplewood like wind through the leaves, lifting her spirit higher. Dressed in a simple but elegant apron, she felt a swirl of excitement and anxiety in her chest. With her baked creations laid out before the judges, the crowd seemed to buzz with anticipation. In that moment, Emma's heart raced. Was she finally worthy? Could she truly embrace her place among these warm, loving neighbors after all those years of feeling like an outsider? With the oven timer dinging, signaling not just the end of baking but the beginning of her story, she stepped forward, ready to reclaim the magic of her childhood dreams. What would unfold on that stage as she faced her fears? Would forgiveness take root in the fertile soil of community? The answer lingered in the autumn air, and Emma's journey was just beginning. Emma stood before the panel of judges, heart hammering in her chest like an unsteady drum. The aroma of freshly baked pie enveloped her, rich and sweet. She had poured every ounce of love and pain into her creations, each dessert a piece of her story. The vibrant colors of the festival, the golden leaves, and laughter around her felt like a past she no longer belonged to and a future she longed for. The judges were smiling, but Emma's eyes flitted nervously over the crowd. Jessica stood front and center, her once familiar face now embodying a complex blend of confidence and vulnerability. A sense of camaraderie wrapped around them, born from that moment of honesty they had shared just days before. Emma could hardly believe they were standing in this space together, both hoping to win, yet supporting each other. Emma, one of the judges called, snapping her back to the present. Tell us about the inspiration for your creations. She took a breath, the air thick with hope and fear. These recipes were passed down from my grandmother. Each one carries a memory, she began, feeling a warmth spread through her voice. This pie, in particular, is her favorite. It reminds me of our time together in the kitchen, laughter blending with the scent of cinnamon. As she spoke, she felt the tension in her shoulders ease. Memories of her grandmother's gentle guidance washed over her flour on their noses and flourishes of love when she missed the perfect whisk. The audience was wrapped in the moment, silence engulfing them like a cozy blanket. It felt good to share, to open herself like a blooming flower, shedding the layers of grief and loneliness that had weighed her down for years. When Emma placed her pie in front of the judges, she caught a glimpse of Jessica giving her a thumbs up. Flashes of their childhood, both innocent and bitter, surged in her heart, but now tangled with the string of newfound respect. Whatever happened in that moment, they were both reclaiming their stories. As the tasting began, Emma's eyes darted around, watching each deliberate fork press into the crust, crumbling layers that held her past. She could sense the judge's appreciation, a nod here, a murmur there. It felt like someone was cheering her on from the shadows, a stirring within her that clawed at the edges of her self-doubt. But what she didn't expect was the judge who paused, brow furrowed, taking a longer time to appreciate the pie. A moment seemed to stretch endlessly. Anxiety bubbled within Emma again. Had she missed the mark? Was her heart not enough? Delicious, he finally said, almost reverently, but there's something deeper here, something more personal. In that instant, her breath caught. He was right. This pie wasn't just pastries and sugar. It was a bridge to her past, signaling a journey towards acceptance. As the judges deliberated, her heart raced with a mix of vulnerability and excitement. The moment felt monumental, not just for her, but perhaps for Jessica too. Behind her, whispers of admiration grew louder, creating a crescendo Emma could hardly comprehend. It dawned on her this was not just a competition. It was a reckoning. As applause broke out, Emma turned toward Jessica, her heartbeat echoing the shared understanding between them. They were no longer just rivals or echoes from a painful past. They were part of something bigger. Just then, the judges took the stage, but before they could announce the winner, the moment took a sharp turn. A familiar face stepped forward from the crowd, one she could never have anticipated, her estranged mother. Emma's heart plummeted to her stomach. Why now? Would this be another rejection? Would all her courage crumble before her? In that moment, everything froze, and she was left to steady herself, clutching the fabric of her apron as if it were a lifeline. What was about to happen next? Emma's breath hitched, her body tense as she turned to face the woman who had once been her whole world. The vibrant festival around her dulled into an echo, the noise of laughter fading into a distant murmur. Her mother stood there, the years etched into her features, but there was something softer in her eyes. A flicker of longing? Regret? Emma, her mother's voice trembled, cutting through the thick silence that hung between them. I came to see you. Words failed Emma as she searched her mother's eyes. Could this really be happening? After all those years of silence, the unresolved hurt bloomed in her chest. Could she trust that this was more than just a fleeting impulse? The judge's gaze shifted between the two women, their deliberations momentarily forgotten in the face of this unexpected reunion. Emma's heart raced. Was this a distraction from her moment of triumph? Or was it the moment she had been unknowingly waiting for? Why now? Emma finally found her voice, the words feeling heavy and sharp like fresh-cut apples. You could have come back at any time. Why here? Why today? Her mother's eyes widened, and in that moment, Emma saw the flicker of shame that danced across her face. I know I've been a coward, she whispered, the admission hanging between them like a fragile thread. I let my fears take me away. I didn't know how to come back, but I had to see you today. I'm in the middle of something. Emma pressed, desperation creeping into her tone, afraid of being pulled into old wounds. A part of her screamed to run, to protect herself from potential heartache. Please, her mother implored, stepping forward. Just let me explain. I've been watching. Emma cut her off, anger bubbling up. You didn't want me then, what makes me believe you now? The intensity in her voice rippled through the crowd, and heads began to turn, curiosity peaking. Emma felt exposed. raw in a way she hadn't anticipated standing before the judges. "I had to know you were okay," her mother continued, visibly shaken. "Your pies. I saw them online. I was so proud of you even when I wasn't there. I wanted to reach out but didn't know how." The thought sent a jolt through Emma, a mix of warmth and constriction. Proud of her? Did that change a decade of silence and neglect? The judges shifted on their stools, their expressions uncertain, the atmosphere growing thick with anticipation. Emma took a step back, wrestling with what was happening. She had wanted this moment, hadn't she? A piece of closure, a connection. But could she forgive? Could she open her heart to the woman who had walked away when it mattered most? At that very moment, Jessica stepped forward, breaking through Emma's turmoil. "If you're really sorry, show her you're truly back," she said, the calm strength in her voice steadying. Emma looked over at her, surprised by the sincerity in her friend's gaze. Could she really ask for a second chance? Emma felt the weight of the moment settle around her like a cloak. Would she allow herself to be seen not just as a baker, but as a daughter yearning for a relationship? Silence reigned as her mind raced. Emma's heart pounded, echoing the tension of the crowd. Her mother looked vulnerable, but was that enough? The judges exchanged glances as if sensing the undercurrents swirling in the air. Just moments ago, Emma was on the cusp of a victory, and now she faced a choice that could redefine everything. What should she do? Would she embrace the risk of forgiveness or protect her heart against the tides of her past? The air felt electric, as if the very fabric of her fate hung in the balance. As her mother reached out, hands trembling, Emma felt her breath catch. This was at the moment where everything could change, but what lay beyond that choice? Time stretched as Emma stared at her mother's outstretched hand. It felt impossibly small and yet impossibly heavy. All those years, the absence, the tears, the late nights spent baking pie after pie in an effort to fill the void left in her heart. Hadn't she learned to live without this? To find comfort in distances where pain had once resided? Why did it hurt so much to even imagine letting her mother back in? The crowd seemed to hold its breath with her, and for a moment all noise faded away. Emma's mind raced through a kaleidoscope of memories, her mother singing off-key in the kitchen, warm arms that once wrapped around her, the sound of her laughter filling their small home. Those were images smothered by the harshness of abandonment. Emma felt the mix of love and resentment twist heavily within her. "Please," her mother said again, her voice breaking. "I swear I'm not the same person anymore. I've changed. I know I don't deserve it, but I need you to know that I've carried the weight of my choices." "Changed?" Emma replied, her voice barely a whisper. "You left me, just left. And I'm supposed to believe you now?" Her mother's face fell, yet there was something unyielding in her eyes. "I thought I was protecting you. I thought you'd be better off without me. But all I did was push you away. I realized that too late." Was that true? Emma thought back to all the birthdays and holidays spent alone, wishing her mother could see the woman she had become. For 10 years, she had constructed walls, fortified with hurt and anger. But a flicker of hope began to emerge. What if she could peel back those layers? What if she allowed herself to feel something other than rage? A small part of her reached for the glimmer of possibility, a chance at healing that felt both terrifying and liberating. But then the specter of risk loomed larger. Would reconnection lead to disappointment again? The judges had abandoned their deliberations entirely. Eyes were riveted on the two women, and Emma sensed the collective energy of the crowd. They were waiting for her, expecting her to make the impossible choice. This wasn't just about baking. This was about the very core of who she was. "Emma," Jessica stepped up beside her, giving her an encouraging nod. "It's your moment. You can define what this means for you. Whatever choice you make is yours to own." And that was when Emma felt it, a pulse, a tiny beat of courage unfurling in her chest. Perhaps it was time to confront the pain rather than drown in it. Maybe opening her heart didn't mean inviting devastation back in, but could mean reclaiming her story, her power. After all, she had poured herself into her baking, poured her heart into every crust and filling. Could she not do the same with her relationship? Taking a deep breath, Emma stepped forward, closing the distance between her and her mother. The trembling hand was still outstretched, full of trepidation and hope, just like her heart. "Okay," she murmured, feeling the tears prick at her eyes. "I'll listen." In that moment, the crowd erupted with a mix of whispers and gasps. Emma could scarcely believe what she had just said. She was shaking inside as her mother's eyes glistened with unshed tears. "Let me show you," her mother began, the emotion in her voice catching. But before they could say more, a sudden ruckus erupted from the back of the pavilion. A loud crash echoed, shattering the fragile atmosphere, causing both women to flinch. Heads turned to see someone stumbling into the chaos, a young man, clasping his arm, his face pale. Someone needs to help. There's been an accident in the food tent." Emma's heart lurched. Could this really be happening? Just as she was about to embark on the most pivotal moment of her life, a twist had come crashing down. What would happen now? Would she run to help? Or would this new crisis pull her away from the healing she so desperately needed? Emma felt a rush of adrenaline. She had been on the brink of a life-altering decision, ready to open her heart, and now chaos erupted like a storm cloud over her moment of clarity. The word accident echoed in her mind as her pulse quickened. The crowd around her stirred, panic spreading like wildfire. People began to shout, some rushing toward the food tent, while others stood frozen, their expressions a mix of shock and concern. Emma's instincts kicked in. For all her unresolved feelings about her mother, she knew she couldn't turn away from someone in need. "Stay here," Emma said to her mother, though it felt strange to issue commands from a place of vulnerability. She didn't want to let go of that tentative connection. But helping others was instinctual, a virtue her mother had once modeled, despite the years that had passed. Rushing toward the food tent, the scent of burnt sugar and baked goods filled the air, an oddly comforting reminder even in the chaos. As she approached, she could see a group of people huddled close, some moving back to give space. A young man lay on the ground, a grimace etched across his face. His arm was awkwardly positioned, with what looked like a deep scrape running down the side. Emma knelt beside him, her heart pounding. "Hey, I'm here," she spoke softly, looking him in the eyes to establish a connection. "What happened?" "I slipped. I think I fell into a fryer," he gasped, anxiety bleeding into pain. Her stomach churned. Okay. Just try to breathe. We're going to get you help." She glanced around, hoping someone else would take charge, but everyone seemed overwhelmed. As she applied pressure to his gash, her mind whirred. Where were the medics? The judges? The event coordinators? They should be here by now. A crowd was forming, eyes wide with uncertainty. But Emma pushed through the confusion, her heart pounding with resolve. "This is going to hurt a little," she said gently, continuing to assess the injury. "But you'll be okay." His eyes flickered with gratitude, yet fear lingered in the corners. Emma felt the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. Out of the corner of her eye, she noticed her mother hovering at the edge of the crowd, her face pale. There was a flicker of recognition, a shift of understanding as they locked eyes. Perhaps this was not just about them anymore. This was about community, shared humanity. "Emma," Jessica's voice broke in as she dashed over with another contestant. "Get some cloths. We need to stop the bleeding, right?" Emma scrambled to her feet, spotting some clean kitchen towels nearby. She handed them off quickly and returned to the young man, her focus sharpened. Moments felt like hours as they worked together to assess the situation. Emma felt a stirring of purpose, a shift in her wavering confidence. This is what making connections was about, stepping up when it mattered the most. As sirens wailed faintly in the distance, a sudden realization hit her. What did it mean for her journey ahead? Did reconnecting with her mother hold the same power as reaching out to those around her now? The crowd was becoming quieter, focused and intent. Emma felt her heart swell with the energy of shared determination, the kind that soared above pain. "Keep talking to me. What's your name?" she asked, her tone steady. The young man responded, and for that moment, everything else faded away. With her mother watching, with people rallying to help, A path began to reveal itself not just towards healing with her mother, but in every connection she made. Just then, a voice broke through the haze. Emma, we need you back by the judge's table. What awaited her there? Would she discover the answer to the question she had yet to fully form in her mind? As she looked back at her mother, the moment of choice lingered, charged with possibilities. Could this chaos bring her closer to the clarity she sought? Emma turned sharply, adrenaline still coursing through her veins. But the call from the judge's table felt like a lifeline. She shot one last glance at the young man, now in capable hands, and allowed herself a moment of relief before jogging back through the dispersing crowd. The fair had taken on an entirely different vibe since the accident. The air was thick with tension, but she could sense a flicker of resolve emerging among the onlookers. They weren't just spectators anymore. They were participants in something bigger, supporting each other, forming a bond in the wake of uncertainty. Emma felt her heart swell at the transformation around her. When she reached the judge's table, she found faces etched with concern. Her friend Jessica was already there, her brow furrowed. "What's going on?" Emma asked, breathless. "We're trying to keep things organized, but everything is in chaos," Jessica replied, anxiety cracking her voice. "Some contestants want to back out, and we need to figure out how to move forward with the competition." A knot formed in Emma's stomach. This meant everything. The contest was her chance to step out of the shadows and show what she was capable of, to find her place in the world. But could she really think about that now, with so much uncertainty hanging in the air? "Maybe we can turn this into a way to rally support," Emma suggested, her mind whirring. If the audience was about to help someone in need, they might also want to support us while we get through this together. Jessica's eyes lit up with realization. "You're right," she said, appearing relieved to have an idea. "We can create a benefit. Maybe we can donate a portion of the proceeds to help with medical costs or local charities." Emma felt a spark of hope. This was exactly the clarity she was searching for. The power of community could elevate them all. "Let us do it. We can make an announcement," she said, stepping closer to the judges. "We can turn this moment of chaos into something positive." But as she prepared to speak, the anxiety washed back over her. What if her words fell flat? What if no one wanted to join them? Doubt crept in, a venomous little voice that threatened to squash her newfound energy. Just then, she caught sight of her mother in the crowd. There was no way she could ignore the way her heart soared when she saw her. Her mother's expression had shifted from worry to admiration, and something inside Emma shifted too. Maybe this was about more than just the contest or the accident. It was about forging connections and finding strength in vulnerability. Taking a deep breath, Emma stepped up to the microphone. The murmurs in the crowd dulled down, eyes turning toward her. "I know today has been overwhelming," she began, her heart racing. "But together, we can turn this accident into an opportunity to help one another. This isn't just about our competition. It's about our community." A tentative cheer broke from the crowd, and she felt a warmth surge through her, bolstered by their support. She locked eyes with her mother, and the connection was electric. "Let us show everyone what we're capable of when we support one another," Emma called, her voice gaining strength. "Let us make today matter." A roar of applause broke out, and for the first time, Emma felt the weight of the moment lift. In that instant, she knew she wasn't alone. She glimpsed a future, perhaps even reconciliation with her mother. But as the crowd began to rally, a shadow crossed her thoughts, a looming fear of what else they would have to face. Would the support stand strong when the real challenges arose? "Emma," Jessica whispered, drawing her back to reality. "What happens next?" As those words hung in the air, the uncertainty felt heavy, like the calm before a storm. Emma clenched her fists, resolved to face whatever came together with her community, and perhaps, finally, with her mother. Would she find the clarity she was so desperately seeking, or would the weight of the past threaten to pull her under again? As the applause echoed around her, a renewed sense of purpose coursed through Emma. She felt the weight of her earlier doubts start to lift. The crowd wasn't just there to spectate. They were there to connect, to rally behind something meaningful. The fair was a backdrop to a more profound transformation. "Great job," Jessica said, her eyes shining, almost in disbelief. "You really got them fired up." Emma turned and smiled, her heart still pounding. "It's not just me. It's all of us. We can make a difference." They quickly huddled with the judges to plan the announcement of the benefit. The air buzzed with new energy. Ideas flew back and forth like sparks from a fire. Emma could see hope glimmering in the faces around her. They started drafting a speech, laying out a roadmap for the event that would span the rest of the fair. The thought of introducing a cause to the crowd got Emma thinking. "Shouldn't we also talk to the young man who was hurt?" she asked. "Since this started with him, we could really show how our community cares." Jessica nodded. "That's a solid idea. If he's up for it, it would ground our message." With a shared nod, Emma felt ready to step out again. This time, they weren't just contestants in a competition. They were a united front, shedding their individual fears for a greater cause. She waved at the crowd again, gratitude swelling in her chest as they gave her encouraging gestures. But as she and Jessica stepped into the throng, a familiar figure broke through the crowd. Emma's heart froze for a moment. Her father. It had been months since she'd seen him. The arguments, the silent treatments, all the harsh words they echoed in her mind. And yet, there he stood, vulnerable and uncertain, as if he had been carried against his will by the current of inevitability. His eyes met Emma's, full of a mixture of longing and regret. Instantly, so much of her anger seemed insignificant. The sight of him stirred a strange blend of emotions: love, confusion, and fear. Would he even care about what was happening? "Emma," he began, his voice thick. "I heard about the accident. I didn't know how serious it was." She took a breath, steeling her heart, but the warmth of his concern ignited small flickers of an age-old bond. "It's okay, Dad," she said softly, the words tasting foreign on her tongue. "But we're turning things around. We're doing a benefit for him." He took a step closer. "I want to help if you'll let me. I know things have been tough, but I've missed you." The world seemed to pause, and Emma felt the weight of her past and present collide. She longed to retort with all the hurt she'd held on to stand firm against the disappointments. Yet, a small part of her, a voice that had grown louder after the day's events, yearned for understanding, for reconnection, for healing. "Maybe we can talk later?" she suggested. It wasn't a yes or a no. More of a bridge, a possibility floating in the air between them. He nodded, tears glistening in his eyes, and she realized how heavy those words had been for both of them. As he stepped back, Emma felt something shift within her. The lingering weight of her past suddenly felt slightly lighter. They moved on, ready to take their message to the crowd. Emma felt charged again, the earlier energy returning. But deep inside, her heart thumped with new questions. Could this moment mark the beginning of forgiveness, not just for her father, but for herself? "Let us get this underway," Jessica exclaimed, snapping her out of her thoughts. As the judges began to gather the crowd again for the details of the benefit, a realization hit Emma like a wave. This wasn't just about the competition anymore. It was a shot at mending her heart, reconnecting with her family, and redefining all their futures. But would she find the strength to transform this chance? As the crowd's cheers rang around her, she wondered, would she still be the person they needed, or would the ghosts of her past haunt her steps, even as she reached for the future? Emma stepped forward, the bright, fair lights illuminating the eager faces in the crowd. There was a pulse of energy in the air, a sense of purpose that felt infectious. She glanced at Jessica, who was already gearing up to speak again, a determined look on her face. "Okay, everyone," Jessica said, raising her voice to command attention. "We're here today to do more than just enjoy the fair. We're here to make a real difference." As cheer erupted from the crowd, Emma felt her resolve deepen. This wasn't just a benefit for someone else. It was a collective leap into hope. With a notable shift in her demeanor, she took a deep breath. It was time for her to step up. "Thank you all for being here," Emma called out as she joined Jessica at the front. "We decided to hold this benefit because we believe in the power of community." She could feel their energy, their focused eyes searching, hearts open. This isn't just about the young man who was hurt. It's about us, coming together to support one another, to show that love can bridge even the widest divides. The crowd erupted into applause once more, and Emma felt her spirit soar. She caught a glimmer of something familiar within their faces, reflecting her own journey struggles, despair, but also resilience and hope. This was bigger than her. As the words poured from her, Emma felt a wave of emotion wash over her. It was as if she were shedding layers of the hurt and disappointment she had kept close for too long. After sharing details about the benefit and ways they could all contribute, Emma's thoughts drifted back to her father. She longed for his approval, for a sign that he wanted to be part of this healing. Could they truly start afresh? "Let us give a heartfelt welcome to our benefactor," Jessica announced, and the crowd quieted. "He is a survivor, and we're fortunate to have him here today." The young man, supported by his family, stepped onto the makeshift stage, his expression a mixture of gratitude and courage. Emma watched as he talked about his journey, the pain, the support he had received from the community, and how hopeful he was for the future. Each word resonated with the audience, uniting them in shared vulnerability. As he began to speak, Emma's thoughts turned inward. Was she brave enough to share her own story, to air the complex emotions swirling just beneath the surface? The ghosts of the past tugged at her fiercely. This was her moment, not just to help someone else, but also to help herself begin to heal. "Hey, Emma," Jessica nudged her, breaking through her trance. "You okay? You look a little lost." Emma glanced around, catching the eyes of her father once more. He was standing a little distance from the crowd, watching her with something like hope in his gaze. The urge to run to him, to share what was truly in her heart, pushed against her. But could she express her pain without pushing him away again? Before she could respond, Jessica added, "You seem to have something to say. If you want to come up here, now's the time." Emma's throat tightened. The air grew heavy with anticipation. The crowd turned toward her, their eyes shimmering with encouragement. She could feel the pull of something bigger. This was her chance to break the silence that had hung between her and her father for too long. "I want to say something," Emma finally said, her voice trembling, but steady. She stepped forward, heart racing, knowing this could change everything. As she approached the stage, she could feel the weight of their gaze. How could she express the struggles she had faced and the tension that loomed between her family? And just like that, she allowed herself to hope that she would find the right words. But would she be able to face the truths that had always held her back? With her heart racing, another thought nagged at her. Could the love and forgiveness she sought be within reach? As she gathered her thoughts, Emma took a deep breath as the crowd buzzed with expectation, waiting to hear her story. Emma steadied herself at the edge of the makeshift stage, feeling the warmth of the crowd's collective breath as they awaited her words. She glanced at Jessica, who offered an encouraging nod, and then back at the young man who had just shared his own heart. He was a beacon of vulnerability, shining with the kind of bravery that made Emma's heart swell. Sometimes you think you can only be loved when you're perfect," Emma began, her voice carrying a tremor. "I've spent years hiding parts of myself, scared that if I showed them, I'd lose everyone I care about." The crowd exhaled softly, each member reflecting their own fears and scars. Emma swallowed hard, bravely pressing on. "I felt like a burden instead of a blessing. My relationship with my dad, it's been broken. I've yearned for his approval but feared that I'd disappoint him again. I didn't want to face that pain, so I kept my distance." A ripple of understanding coursed through the audience. Emma could see nods, sympathetic smiles, people connecting their own stories to hers. This connection gave her strength. "But today, I stand here wanting to change that," she continued, gripping the edges of the stage. "I want to be honest. I know there are moments filled with hurt, regrets, and misunderstandings. But I believe we all deserve a chance to heal." She met her father's gaze through the crowd. His eyes sparkled, a mix of apprehension and encouragement reflecting back at her. The way he looked at her ignited boldness within. "Dad," she called out, her voice rising above the noise. I don't want to hide anymore. I'm ready to talk, to share this burden and lift it. Can we begin to heal together? The air thickened with emotion, and time seemed to freeze. Emma felt her heart pounding, echoing all her unvoiced pleas in that moment. She didn't expect an immediate response, but still, the hope within her ignited like a wildfire. A moment stretched on. Then, slowly, her father stepped forward. With shaky hands, he raised them as he spoke, the pain and regret evident in his voice. Emma, I've been so afraid that I've already let you down too many times. But I want to be here for you. I don't want to waste another moment. The crowd erupted into murmurs of support, some voices whispering encouragement, while others wiped away tears. Emma's heart warmed as she recognized the collective healing occurring, like everyone was shoulder to shoulder in a circle of love. Let us break the cycles together, she said, her spirit rising with every word. We can't change the past, but we can choose to embrace each other moving forward. The energy in the air shifted as she spoke. Emma's hands joined together in a plea. I need us as a family to forgive not just one another, but ourselves. There's no perfect time to begin, but let this moment be ours. Together. As she finished, a wave of applause rolled through the crowd, breaking the tension and lifting hearts. Emma felt lighter, like a weight had been lifted, and she could finally glimpse a path ahead. Jessica beamed at her, pride swelling in her eyes. That's the spirit, Emma. Together, we're unstoppable. But suddenly, a familiar voice piped up from the back. Is that all this is? A one-time thing? Emma turned to see an unexpected face, an old friend, shadows from the past lurking in their eyes. Will you really show up for each other when it gets hard? Emma's gut twisted. The doubt hung like a storm cloud above her, threatening to dampen the moment they had created. How would she respond when the reality of the struggle loomed ahead? Could they truly commit to this new bond? As the crowd hushed, Emma looked into the sea of expectant faces, feeling the weight of the questions sink in. Forgiveness came easy in words, but loyalty and action were another story. And at that moment, she realized this was just the beginning of a much tougher journey. She took a deep breath, ready to face it all, knowing whatever lay ahead would demand every ounce of strength she had. Would she rise to the challenge? Would they all? The crowd waited, breathless. As she prepared to answer, Emma inhaled deeply, her heart racing against the tide of uncertainty as she considered the weight of the question. This moment wasn't just about pie or competition. It was about life, connections, and bravely stepping into a future they could shape together. Of course, she began, her voice steady despite the whirlwind inside. It's easy to stand here and make promises when everything feels perfect. But life isn't always perfect. I know that well. I've tasted failure, heartache, and rejection. A murmuring wave rolled through the crowd, a shared understanding blooming like fresh flowers in early spring. I want this to be real, she continued, her gaze drifting to her mother and father standing on opposite sides of the stage. Their expressions ranged from hopeful to anxious. I want to pretend we can sweep everything under the rug. It won't be easy. It's going to take work. She scanned the crowd, her eyes locking onto familiar faces, people who had cheered her on, who had witnessed her struggles, and who shared their own stories of resilience. But I believe we can lean on each other, she said, the conviction growing in her voice. When we slip, we don't abandon each other. Instead, we lift each other up. That's community. Not just during the good times, but through the hard stuff, too. The applause erupted once more, louder and fiercer. Emma felt the warmth of support wash over her like sunlight breaking through the clouds. In that moment, she was no longer alone in her journey. She was buoyed by a community that resonated with the power of shared struggles. And then, as if a dam had broken within her, she continued, let us not just talk about being better. Let us put it into action. I want to start a workshop, something where we can all come together, share our stories, and learn from one another. Maybe even bake together. Let us create a space for honest dialogue and connection. An electric silence fell, punctuated only by the sound of astonished gasps and whispers of excitement spreading like wildfire. Everyone was swept away by the intensity of her vision. Beyond the stage, she could see her mother nodding, a glimmer of hope shimmering in her eyes. Her father's shoulders seemed to relax, his expression morphing from concern to cautious optimism. Encouraged by the smiles igniting around her, Emma reached for more, her heart full of purpose. If we can support one another in our journeys, we can redefine what it means to be a family, a community. Let us turn our pain into power and our scars into stories that can inspire growth. Yes, Jessica shouted from the crowd, and her enthusiasm ignited a spark, amplifying Emma's emotional charge. Emma felt tears prick at her eyes, not from sorrow, but from a deep well of love and gratitude. In that moment, she connected with a feeling that had been missing for far too long, a sense of belonging, of being exactly where she was meant to be. As the cheers rose, Emma realized the competition, the festival, even the accident from earlier, had gathered them in this unique moment. It was far more than a baking contest. It was a launch pad for transformation. Let us set a date. We'll meet, learn, share, whether it's baking or speaking our truth. We'll elevate one another, she declared, a radiant smile spreading across her face. The atmosphere grew electric, a shared heartbeat echoing through the crowd. The jubilant applause surged higher, resonating with the promise of new beginnings and a collective effort to support one another. In that moment, Emma was enveloped by a wave of acceptance. She felt cherished and understood for the first time in years, not just as a baker or a daughter, but simply as herself. She was no longer bound by fear of rejection. She was free to create a new narrative, one that embraced imperfections and honored connections. And as the laughter and cheers echoed around her, she turned to her parents, taking a step towards them both, feeling a sense of hope for reconciliation. "Can we try together?" she asked, knowing it would take time, but that every journey began with a single step. "Yes," her mother replied, her voice steady. "I want that." Her father nodded, tears glistening in his eyes. "Me too, Emma. I want to be part of your life again." The past may have been tumultuous, but in that moment, a new path emerged, paved with honesty, bravery, and the decision to embrace connection above all. As Emma stepped back, the crowd erupted once again, wild applause and cheers ringing in unison, a celebration of hope, healing, and endless possibilities. And with that, the festival didn't just signify a competition. It began to symbolize a renewed community, a collection of stories stitched together by resilience, baking camaraderie, and united dreams. Emma felt her heart swell as she stood there. No longer a hidden princess overlooked, she was a vibrant beacon of transformation, glowing with the warmth of newfound love and acceptance. As they prepared to turn those dreams into reality, Emma looked out at her community and declared, "Let us build this together." The crowd leaped into applause, and in that moment, she knew they were just getting started. Now, this is your moment. You need to subscribe now to not miss the next exclusive stories filled with inspiration and heart. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your support for this amazing journey. Comment your reactions and feelings about the ending. Your voice matters. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Only true fans understand how important your support is. Let us keep this community growing.